today's Friday Forum. My name is Casey Emlin. I'm a program director here at the Y. We usually start a few minutes late, but Professor Gundersen actually has a class to teach at 1, so we're going to go ahead and try to get started as soon as possible. I'd also like to make the note that because he has to leave a little early, and just because it's his personal preference, we'll be taking questions throughout the talk. So if you have a question at any time, feel free to raise your hand and I will bring you the microphone. And if I don't get to you in time with the microphone, we'll make sure that questions are repeated so that everyone can hear them. Welcome to the Spring 2014 first Friday Forum lecture series. This series theme is Creative Approaches to Economic Security. Is the second half of our larger theme that I just forgot the name of. So how about that? I know it's beyond something, and I can't remember. Beyond security. Or beyond security? Rethinking Security. That is the name of our thing. Should have written it down. I'm out of practice. It's been a year since I've been up here on this podium. I invite you all to take a look at the series brochures and check out the rest of the talks throughout the semester. We have a lot of great ones coming up. Those are available at the welcome table if you haven't already had a chance to pick them up. We'd like to thank all of our series sponsors for financially supporting the program, but if I were to do that, we would be at the podium for another 15 minutes. So please check them out at our website, universityymca.org, or on the cards. Sign language interpreters are available for any speaker in our series as long as we get a couple of days' notice. You can contact the front desk if you have a question about how to arrange those services. Friday Forum is also rebroadcast on WEF 90.1 Community Radio on Mondays, as well as Urbana Public Television, and we try as often as possible to get them up on YouTube. So you have many ways to access talks that you may miss or that you want to get a little more information on. Throughout the presentation, we'll have a question and answer period. Please wait for the microphone so that we can make sure we get your questions on those rebroadcasts. If you need to leave at any time for class or another reason, please feel free to discreetly slip out. If you are a student who's here for a class, who's receiving extra credit or some other kind of credit, please make sure that you sign in at the sign-in sheets, which we have at the front desk, and that we will also circulate so that you can get that credit. And I ask all of you finally to join me in welcoming Donna Camp, who's our outgoing Friday Forum Committee Chair, and without whose leadership we would not have such a strong lineup, but particularly we would not have today's speaker. Thank you. Dr. Gundersen is the Soybean Industry Endowed Professor of Agricultural Strategy in the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Economics at the University of Illinois and Executive Director of the National Soybean Research Laboratory. He is also a member of the Technical Advisory Group of Feeding America and is the lead researcher on MAP, the Meal Gap project. Previously, he was at the Economic Research Service of the USDA and at Iowa State University. Gundersen's research is primarily focused on the causes and consequences of food insecurity and on evaluations of food assistance programs with particular emphasis on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, formerly known as the Food Stamp Program. And for those of you who know that I am the director of the Wesley Evening Food Pantry, Dr. Gundersen's work is particularly important to those of us in the food insecurity business. And I am very glad to welcome him to kick off our series on security, particularly economic security, and to give us an overview of why this is an important topic. Dr. Gundersen.
Okay. Thank you for that introduction, Donna. I appreciate that. It's always it's great that we have people like Donna who actually do work directly to help make sure that food insecure people in our community have enough food to eat. I really don't do anything. I just do this research. So it's great to have, wonderful to have people like Donna. I wanted to thank Casey and the YMCA for inviting me to be a part of this. I really do appreciate this opportunity to speak here today. This looks like a great series, so I'm happy to be a part of it. And I wanted to thank all of you very much for coming here to this today. You all have other things you'd be doing right now, so I appreciate you being here. I'm humbled by that. One thing is Casey mentioned at the start, I have to teach a class right after this. I actually have my amazing TA here, so she probably could go teach the class for me. But I try not to miss too much of my classes, and earlier I was in Bogota. I flew there Tuesday, I flew back yesterday, so I had to miss class on Wednesday, so I don't want to be late for my class today. So So let me talk a little about this work that I'm going to be presenting here today. And please interrupt me at any point. So please, interrupt me at any point with questions you have. This work that is based upon a question was, foundations in the United States are really interested in food insecurity. It's becoming a more important issue. For example, Walmart Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Conagra Foods Foundation have become really interested in this issue of food insecurity. And there's a lot of people saying out here, oh, we should do X, we should do Y, we should do Z to address the problem. And the Conagra Foods Foundation approached me and said, well, what does the research show? What's the best things to be doing? We have a limited amount of money to address food insecurity. What should we be doing? What works? So I said, okay, this is part of a research, a literature review. They'll say, what can we do? And so this presentation comes out of that work. So just to give you a context for this. My presentation today, I'm going to begin with an overview of food insecurity in the United States, and then using results from Map the Meal Gap, is then begin to say what works. What things look like in Illinois. And then I'm going to talk about the 5 main things that we can do to address food insecurity in the United States. And I'm going to tell you ahead of time, and I'm going to tell you throughout this. Encourage participation in SNAP. Encourage participation in the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. Recognize and encourage the excellent work being done by Feeding America and its umbrella of food banks in the United States, and down to the group that Donna heads up at the food pantry level. This is really important. The 4th thing is to keep food prices low. We have to fight against any activities that might raise food prices. And finally, encourage encourage ways to make sure that financial management skills can be improved. Those are the 5 things that I want to talk about today. So this here gives you a map of what's happened in food security since 2000. Food insecurity actually began to be measured in 1996, but it's under its current form. It's only been done since 2000 under a consistent format. 3 key things I want to point out about this. So this has the percentage of food insecurity, percentage of very low food security. I'm going to concentrate on the top graph up there. And the first thing to note about this is the 2000s were pretty good economic times in the United States. Even during good economic times in the United States, about 30 million Americans are food insecure. So even when the country is doing well, we still have tens of millions of people in the United States who are struggling with food insecurity. So when the economy improves, we're still going to have millions of food insecure people. This topic that I'm talking about today will always be relevant. Well, hopefully it won't always be relevant. I'd love to come back 20 years from now and I'd be having these discussions. I'd like to be out of a job. Well, by that time I may go retired. But I'd like to be out of a job about talking about food insecurity because we're doing such a great job at it. But that's the first thing I want to emphasize. Food insecurity is always around, even during good economic times. The second thing I want to emphasize is the huge increase from 2007 to 2008. Okay? That was, a 30% increase in the number of Americans who are food insecure. That's a big number. And it's a larger increase than things we saw, for example, in the poverty rate and stuff. It's also a leading indicator. Food insecurity rates rose before poverty rates did. That's an indication that oftentimes people, before other measures of deprivation come into play, food insecurity does first. The third thing I want to emphasize is the Great Recession ended in 2009. So technically, we're no longer in a recession. But food insecurity rates have remained high. They have not gone down back to the levels that we saw in 2007. So far as I'm concerned, the after effects of the Great Recession will continue to be felt until we get those food insecurity numbers down to what they were in 2007, roughly 11% of Americans being food insecure. So, those are the 3 points I want to emphasize about this. Some of you may be wondering, well, how exactly do we measure food insecurity? And let me briefly go over that. There's something called the Core Food Security Module, which is on various surveys, including the current population survey that's done by the U.S. Department, by the Census Bureau.